If you're like me, who for some reason always have a hard time deciding in regards to the most mundane of things, you probably wonder to yourself, is X character worth spending my Primo Gems on? This applies to both free-to-play and those who maybe spends a bit on the game. Because who doesn't want the most mileage out of their own resources? Especially when it comes to something as hard to come by and save as Primo Gems. With Nahida being the brand spanking new character that is coming to Genshin Impact, the question is, should I use my Primo Gems to wish on her? This doesn't only apply to her banner of course, but to all upcoming and future banners as well. So let's narrow it down and get straight to the point with the question, should I wish for X character? Now obviously the answer is always up to you to decide, but here are some points to consider when it comes to wishing on a character. And for the sake of comparison, I'm gonna be applying it to Nahida, since these are the same points that I decided upon when I wanted to wish for her. Number 1. Do you like the character? I would say overall, this should be the most important part that you should consider when wishing. Genshin Impact is a relatively easy game, and with sufficient investment and farming, you could pretty much finish everything in the game. So if you really like the character, their design, story, or how they play out, then go ahead and wish for them. In the first phase of 3.1 for example, the banner is between Senno or Venti, a new character or an Archon. And while one of my personal goals is to get all of the Archons, I really like Senno's design, so I opted to wish for him. Unfortunately, I lost the 50-50 to Tignari, but hey, there is always next time. At least on the next banner that I decide to wish on, I have a guarantee that I would get the featured 5-star, which in this case is Nahida, because I already love her story despite being in Inazuma. And I just want her to have her freedom, okay? Not to mention that she is an Archon. Number 2. What are you missing? Do you need an on-field DPS? Maybe a sub DPS? Or maybe even a support? Now, this would mostly apply to newer players, especially if you are unlucky AF, just like me, and only managed to get a mishmash of characters, I guess. But since team building is a rather important aspect of Genshin Impact, you may want to have one on-field damage dealer, with the rest being a mix of sub DPS and supports. More if you are planning or if you are in the point of the game where you want to tackle the Spiral Abyss. So I would suggest prioritize which character you are in need of. If you already have an on-field DPS, then go for a sub DPS or support, and vice versa. Just keep in mind that sub DPS and supports are pretty safe to wish for, since they can pretty much fit in most team comps, save for the most niche characters like Nilou for example. As for the case of Nahida, players managed to test her earlier saying that she can actually fit almost any role in your team, except for being a healer of course, so safe to say, she's a more than decent character to wish for. And did I mention she's an Archon? Number 3. How long have you been playing? How far have you progressed? There are multiple reasons why this is important, especially if you are free to play. The first one is the availability of Primo Gems. Suffice to say, the more you have explored and completed the available quests, the less Primo Gems you could have acquired since you may have already gotten them and spent them on other banners. Obviously, if you have cash to burn, this isn't really an issue, but it makes the decision of wishing for a character banner more difficult, since less Primo Gems means less banner you can wish on for the future. Now the second reason is character variety. You may be confused because isn't this just the same as the "what are you missing" question, just worded differently? Yes, but no. This is correlated to how long have you been playing, because the longer you've been playing the game, the higher chances are that you've gotten quite a variety of 4 stars already, either from the events that rewards you with specific 4 stars, or from wishing in the permanent banner from all of the blue fates you've gotten, which means not only the featured 5-star but the 4 stars gets taken into account when wishing. Obviously it's something you already take into account in the first place, but more so if you've been playing longer. Because if you want a guarantee on a featured 5-star and you're really unlucky, it would cost around 180 wishes or 28,800 Primogems. Well, that's obviously for the worst case scenario, where you lose 50-50 on the first 5-star and need another 90 wishes to reach Hard Pity to finally get the featured character. Pretty crazy, right? What this means is the 4-star in the banner that you are considering to wish on becomes more important, since every 10 wishes guarantees you get a 4-star, which is most likely the featured ones in the banner. Nahida's banner, for example, has Bennett, the pseudo 5-star support character that pretty much fits in any team comp. If you are new to the game, well, this is a good news since you have a chance of getting him and maybe increasing his constellations. While Razor and Noel on the other hand are not the best, I would say, but I would go on a limb and say that they are pretty decent though and can be used as on-field damage dealers. I mean, there's a reason why Razor was once considered as the best hyper carry back in the earlier versions of the game, while Noel is a pretty great choice as well for early free-to-play teams. The main takeaway is the first space of the banner for 3.2, not only for Nahida but you and me as well, seems to be geared more towards newer players. Not so much for the veterans or the players who have been playing for quite a while. I mean, if you think about it, it's more likely that the long-time players already have the relevant 4-stars anyways. So it becomes a question of whether you like or need the 5-star character featured in the banner enough to ignore the 4-stars, or you may want to wait for another character banner that may have better 4-stars within them. So to cap it all off, I guess the best advice I could give is wish on the character that you really like or the character that your account needs. Heck, wish if you like the characters in the banner, if you have the Primogems to spare at least. Just have fun and may RNGesus bless you in your future wishes. Weapon banners? What weapon banners? Is it some kind of joke that I'm too free to play to understand? Because let's be honest, it's kind of iffy, I guess, to wish on the weapon banners, especially if you are free to play or you have limited Primogems to spend. So if you don't have good weapons, I guess, you could try, especially if the 4-stars on the said weapon banner is pretty good and you don't know. Maybe you'll get lucky and get a random 5-star weapon out of it. But that's it. Are you going to wish on Nahida? Or are you saving up your Primogems for future versions? Since there seems to be whispers that for 3.3, Raiden Shogun is coming back, and Scaramouche or the Wanderer is going to be released as well. So leave your comments down below and subscribe for more of my ramblings. That's it for now. Stay safe everyone, and once again, don't let that tiny flying gremlin eat your food.